Good morning on what is a mild, bright and sunny day. It is Wednesday the 7th of September. I've got a nice hot cup of tea. And a parcel to unbox. Okay, so pulling this open, all I've got is this. So I'm just trying to find my way through the bubble wrap. Tearing it open more than I was planning to, but there we are. That's one layer off. Almost through to the second layer. And this is a copy of HeroQuest, signed by Greg Stafford, and the various authors. There we go. And this is HeroQuest Roleplaying Glorantha. Essentially promises all the deities, spirits and saints that look upon humanity. We ask you to look upon us here. We stand upon the edge of war, gazing into the abyss and hearing the roar of annihilation. Bless this tome and protect us from desecration, destruction and extermination. Bless us, give us peace and plenty in dire times, and lead us all participants to pleasure, ease and bliss. And it was published by Steve Jackson Games. Let's have a look. In 2003. So this is the first iteration of HeroQuest. Now, if you think HeroQuest originally, you would be thinking of the board game collaboration between Milton Bradley and Games Workshop as the Dungeon Bash board game. And I've done some unboxing of those, and I've done an unboxing of sort of like the original version and also the recent version that Wizards of the Coast published, but between those two dates, sort of like the HeroQuest trademark lapsed, so there was no longer attached. There was no longer basically the name was no longer attached to that board game. So what it was used for, in effect, was Greg Stafford's role-playing game, dedicated to role-playing in Glorantha, and to the concept of being a hero and questing. Now, one of the roles, of course, in sort of like some of the sort of like higher level of play is that the player characters can go on HeroQuest. Now, HeroQuests are recreations and affirmations of stories told of myths and legends, in which the gods went out and did great things, and player characters can reenact them to confirm them, to continue their myths, and even if they're strong enough, even change them so you can have different, you can have variations upon different myths, and the myths can interact. The HeroQuest can sort of like myths can interact through the HeroQuests. So you might encounter someone else. You might have an encounter on a HeroQuest where you encounter someone else who is also on their own HeroQuest. Essentially, as you know, the worshippers of one god encounter another. So Steve Jackson Games published the original rules, designed by Greg Stafford, based on an original game, Robin D. Law's game, for many years. And this was made possible by the Glorantha Trading Association. That's the contents. And this would also end up sort of like as a series of mini books, which I've got, and a box set, which I've got. But this is a first edition printing, limited edition book, as you can tell by the production values. It's got two forwards explaining essentially how hero wars are between the cosmos and chaos, an introduction, and then guide to playing HeroQuest and role-playing in Glorantha. And it's interesting to see this almost 20 years on. The first rule, play the story, not the rules. And HeroQuest was very much a role-playing game about the narrative, and not really getting down into the nitty-gritty of I attack the troll with my leg. Sorry, attack the troll with my sword, and hope that you're going to chop his left leg off, or that sort of thing. So we have a discussion of what the game's about, how it involves the hero wars, and how it's playing across magical landscapes, and explores essentially otherworld interactions through holy places, myth, and so on. And we have a general background, sort of like guide overview of the game via this map. And this is what a character sheet then looked like. Then, I mean, obviously I've actually reviewed HeroQuest later iteration, and HeroQuest role-playing in Glorantha, a later iteration again, which I really liked, and I really like playing. And then we get into handling things like creating heroes, and it's done through keywords which you would bring into play. Does this keyword apply to this situation? You would roll against it, and how well you did would inform the narrative. Create characters via narrative method. You've got a section here on creating an entertaining and effective hero. So you literally have the guidance there with an example. And a character sheet, and I do like that sort of thing. If you're gonna, it's and then he's looked at the other method, which is the list method. And again, you've got two good overviews. You've got a whole page dedicated to, looking at that character, creating a character as you go. Similarly, and then you get into occupations like cavalry soldier, entertainer, foot soldier, farmer, healer, all important roles. And all can have an impact upon Glorantha as you play through. All the way down to nomad, petty noble, thief, warrior. Then we have the various sort of grouping of the various peoples and tribes to be found in the region of Dragon Pass and so on. So, and we're looking at the different homelands. So we've got backgrounds here for the Bison people. Those the Dara Happa, Esrolia, Grazer. Also, essentially, so you've got a guide here to the Grazer homeland keyword. Origins, common religions, specialised religions, and so on, and reasons to have left home. So reasons why you would go have adventures. Shortlings, Puma people, and these are not all of these are available as play options. Stashnella. In the current iteration of RuneQuest role-playing in Glorantha yet. Tosh, but they've been explored in previous iterations of rules for Glorantha, obviously including HeroQuest First Edition. Teshnos. And then how to improve a hero using improvement points, hero points, sorry, and core rules, and getting onto contests, and rolling for success and failure. And what you're trying to do is roll 27 dice against a value, typically your the value of your keyword. And we've got a description of a simple contest explanation of how that works. Extended contests, and much of this would go on to be rewritten and presented in later iterations of the rules. Looking at contest consequences, the most recent version of which is Quest Worlds, which is not yet out at this time of doing this unboxings. And then we have relationships, and dealing with personal relationships, getting a companion, retainers, community relationships, which tie the player characters, the potential heroes, into the setting. You can also have basically construct a guardian, worshipping guardians, and then we get into basic magic. Because Glorantha is a world where everyone has access to basic magic, whether it's essentially simple healing or a repair spell or something along those lines. But if they're a member of a cult, and that's generally a good a given, they will also, as an initiate, have access to greater magic, which allows them to access the powers of the god they worship. And then we have, after magic, we have sample common religions. So here we have, simple guides, Lambril, Seven Mothers, so on, and then we get onto the theism and the different pantheons. And that adds the new occupation, priest. And it's basically throughout, you've got this constant inclusion of examples of the rules in play, really useful, and it adds flavour and feel as well. And then sample deities, we have Argon Argar, Basurian Destor, Irissa, and more. The divine landscape we get into, and then we're into animism. And this is essentially accessing the spirit world, and again it's backed up by examples. Galen becomes a practitioners, and then sample traditions and practices of animism, so dark traditions, majestic horses tradition, all flavour and feel that you can add to your campaign if you're a shaman. And so under Praxian traditions, we've got things like Dakafal and Arithia and Waha, and others. And then we go on to the spirit landscape. And we could deal with wizardry. Always a kind of a difficult aspect of the rules to handle, whichever version of Glorantha you are, rules for Glorantha you are using. In some ways, wizardry in HeroQuesting is actually a little bit easier. Here we have the new occupation. So where we had for theism we have priest, we've got wizard apprentice here, and then occupation wizard, and then sample chain churches, saintly orders, and wizardry schools. Such as the Aeolian Church, Bakari Church, and so on. And then independent wizardry schools like Bardan's book. And then narrating section for the narrator, the game master. And then nature and heroes, dealing with dealing with things like, yes but or how about and so on. Just framing it, using terms like that to push the narrative forward. Handling combat, we've got an example of an ambush there. So specifically narrating HeroQuest section. Yeah. And a guide to HeroQuesting. And there have been numerous guides over the years. This would have been an official guide at the time. It's going to be updated and so on. And then, you are essentially selecting a myth, objective of the quest, and arranging stations at which the player characters can interact and reenact, enforce, or change the myth. Here we have the crossing over, so that's covering the going over from the mortal world into essentially the god time where the myth will be enacted. And then we'll get onto the quest itself. And then at the other end, the return. A section on creatures and essentially opponents and allies, that sort of thing. So a typical brew rider and dragons of various types, dryads are given details and sort of like base stats. Because one of the things obviously that you can, and then we've got the infamous ducks. You can, of course, the good thing about HeroQuest as a role-playing game, it's easy to scale the campaign and setting and opponents to your player characters because it's all primarily built around the narrative. And here we have an actual introduction to Glorantha. Now the thing is, up until this point, a lot of this book has been sort of like dancing around the elements of Glorantha. Here we have the actual introduction. We've got a guide to Dragon Pass using the classic map, which goes all the way back to RuneQuest 2, 1979-80, and before. HeroQuest Adventures next. And narrator characters and how to design them. Yep. Then we have chasing kites, an adventure in which the heroes become involved in a desperate cross-country chase to save a clan treasure, the mighty Blue Storm Dancer, Fish Rain. Essentially, the village starts suffering falls of fish. So lots of different, there's some nice little adventures in here, problems which the player characters can solve. And then we've got sample hero bands at the end there. So, the players don't necessarily have to create their own characters. They can pick and choose from here, this last section. So here we go, just more and more of these. And then we just simply got a guide to runes, because they form a strong element or vital element of RuneQuest and Glorantha and so on. And then we have game aids like synopsis of character creation and rule synopsis, and so on, just stuff like that. Sample resistances, easy reference for the game master and narrator. And then we have the glossary and the index. So there we go, glossary of essential terms. So that is HeroQuest, first edition, published in 2003. This is obviously a limited edition signed by Greg Stafford. which will be 20 years old in next year. Well, basically, it's 20 old. Okay, sorry, it's 20 years old this year in 2023 when you see this video. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, then please do click on the like button down below. And if you've got any comments or feedback, I appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here with a package or a box from which I will unbox a book or a game and chat about it to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea, then please do hit that subscribe button down below. In the meantime, thanks again for watching another unboxing in the Nook video. I'll be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.